During a heated court session due to judge and jurisdiction of the court, Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, penned a powerful letter to the general public alleging that the government and its judiciary have struck an unholy and fraudulent alliance. These were claims made in his letter that was dated 14th February 2025. Nnamdi Kanu began by drawing the attention of the general public to what he described as serial and executive fraud being perpetrated against him since his extraordinary rendition in 2021. He reminded Nigerians that the Federal High Court in Abuja had on March 1st, 2017, ruled that IPOB is not an unlawful group.
All right, so still on the case of Nnamdi Kanu, our leader, and my prophet. Now, something happened this week, but before I tell you that happened this week, he has actually written an open letter to the Nigerian people. I'm going to allow you to see that letter and see the discussions behind that letter. All right. So, but what happened this week is actually Aloy Ejimako, who is one of the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu, posted on his Twitter handle, his X handle. All right. He said that they wanted to go and visit Nnamdi Kanu on Wednesday, but unfortunately, the DSS did not give them, the opportunity to see him. You will also remember that the court has, mandated the DSS to allow his family and his legal team to come and see him, to come and see Nnamdi Kanu every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. But unfortunately, his legal team and his family members going there on Wednesday to see him, the DSS, did not allow them to see Nnamdi Kanu. And what does that tell you? That thing I keep telling you. There is no rule of law. They don't obey law. They don't obey court orders. Anyways, so as the case may be, he posted this on Wednesday that the DSS did not allow them to see Nnamdi Kanu. But as the case may be, yesterday being Thursday, after so many things and so many talks, they now called them to come and visit Nnamdi Kanu. So they were able to visit him. He also posted it on his X handle. Aloy Ejimako posted it on his X handle that DSS has vowed to pressure, grant Nnamdi Kanu's family, lawyers, and others access. So that is how he posted it. So thanks be to God, they have visited him, and we believe that everything will be fine. I keep telling you, at this point, all we need to do is to keep our fingers crossed and pray to God to do the impossibilities. All right. Now, I'm going to allow you to watch the letter that Nnamdi Kanu has written to the public and also follow or hear the discussions that follow it. All right. So as you're watching it, if this is your first time coming across my channel, please do well to subscribe. All right. But for now, please watch this.
Federal High Court in Abuja had on March 1st, 2017, ruled that IPOB is not an unlawful group, but that the federal government, instead of appealing, secretly got IPOB tagged a terrorist group in an ex parte proceeding without notifying him or IPOB. Citing Section 34, subsection 1A of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, Nnamdi Kanu noted that the Federal High Court declared his rendition from Kenya unconstitutional and ordered an apology and compensation from the government, but despite this, he remains in detention. He also recalled that the 2022 Court of Appeal ruling of his abduction on the 27th day of June 2021 violated international law and stripped Nigerian courts of jurisdiction over his case, but that the government continued his detention. In recent history, on the 15th of December 2023, he recalled that the Supreme Court sent his case back to the Federal High Court for trial and criticized the revocation of his bail. But it appeared that the Federal High Court ignored the ruling and continued this detention. Nnamdi Kanu, following all this, noted that he requested the recusal of Justice Binta Nyako because, I quote, "I had enough of taking my chances at getting justice from a judge that in June 2021 sent me to secret police detention without fair hearing, later refused to transfer me to prison to better prepare for my trial, and capped it all by refusing to restore my bail and instead ordered an accelerated trial in the face of the reality that I will never get a fair trial while detained at the DSS." He noted that his request was granted and the judge recused herself, But the chief judge ignored this order and sent the case back to the recused judge. In the end, Nnamdi Kanu claims his case is being deliberately kept from impartial judges, and he vows not to submit to any fair trial conducted by conducted by unconstitutional courts. In his words, not now, not ever. And so, of course, assess this recent open letter, we are joined now in the studio by Chukwuma Efremokenwa, who is the Executive Director, Lead Network Africa. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sir. What was your first reaction to Nnamdi Kanu's attitude during his last court hearing, which he says he was not even supposed to attend? He only did that because of his respect for the court. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it is timely and expected because when it's clear that maybe you have like legal proceedings allegedly in place, but it's clear that the court is not ready to serve justice. You know, there has been this back and forth, whether to seek for political solution or legal. And sometimes when you move it towards political, back against the legal, and even the legal proceedings are not respected. So you have judgment and counter judgment. And one would wonder, you know, just like I think Nnamdi Kanu must have looked at it realistically to tell himself, to what ends? Where is this going to be like? Is this not really be like incarcerating me for life? You know, so I just have to give it like a fighting chance, you know, to really once more, you know, make this a front burner issue as it ought to be. Because clearly trying to play the gentleman certainly is not going to work in his favor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, observing the events thus far and all the litigations and whatnot, there's a statement which is made that the Nigerian state and the judiciary, you know, they have struck an unholy and fraudulent alliance regarding to, you know, what's happening, and looking at this case from 2021 up until now. Do you think there is kind of truth in this allegation?
Yeah, certainly, because he cited instances. What made him believe that there's that unholy alliance? First and foremost, you know, citing the case of the Nigerian Constitution, you know, the very fact that a judgment was already, you know, given, and considering the fact that even the federal government did not obey the judgment, why would there not be like a need for like a stay of execution, right? Mm-hmm. You know, being that a judgment already have been given, and I mean, that is not the law. And clearly he states that and say, well, this is not fair to me. You know, why does it seem to, you know, why does it seem different when it has to do with my own case? It says, is this no longer like the position of the law? And when you also look at the way he was brought back into Nigeria, the extraordinary rendition, there is everything wrong about that particular process. And by the virtue of that, like he cited, and like, I mean, the appellate court also has, you know, tend to agree with that, is that, that by that very singular thing, you know, no court, you know, has that jurisdiction, you know, since fundamentally on the premise with which the trial was commenced is faulty.
Yes. All right. I mean, let's come now to you, Chief Emperor Bona. Now, Nnamdi Kanu insists that a chief judge has no power to force a lawyer on a case that he could have actually appealed in court before sending the lawyer back. So you are aware of Justice Binta Nyako recusing herself, and then according to her explanation, the chief judge put her back on the case, among other things, because she has been following this case since 2015, and she has a lot of knowledge on the intricacies and technicalities of the case. Now, can you tell us if the chief judge actually has the power, the jurisdiction, to put Justice Binta Nyako back on a case that she previously recused herself from without going through the legal process of appealing such a recusal? Chief Emperor, go ahead if you're with us. I think we've lost him there, probably poor network, but let's come back to you. Would you like to react to that?
Okay, so basically, just like, I mean, one of the things anyone could identify Mazi for is the very fact that he's quite very knowledgeable. And, you know, just like the law is not only applicable to lawyers and to the court, but to everyone in the society, just like our health. And having a sound knowledge about that and your rights would actually make you to, you know, display your assertiveness when needed and to demand, that the right thing be done. And I think looking at his position and the very fact also that he was able to present a previous judgment as gazetted, referencing it saying, this is the Nigeria law. All I'm demanding for is to respect that. That if a judge recuses, him or herself in a certain case, then you can't force it on that particular person, right? So if that is the position of the law, then I think that should be respected. Rather than just maybe force someone. And the very fact that, I'm not a lawyer, but there's this statement that lawyers always say, that justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. So what that means is that if someone says, come on, I don't have confidence in you, right? And decide to withdraw the case or even apply, then that should be respected. That person is not like the emblem or the only symbol of law in that particular society. The person is only saying, it happens also in football matches.
Yes.
When for whatever reason you have every reason to say, I don't have confidence in this umpire.
Okay, it's been said that regarding the extraordinary rendition, regarding on how Nnamdi Kanu was brought into the country, that there's literally no case till something that was fault is fixed. It was Abdel Farouk Simi, a lawyer, and with his book Nigeria and its criminal justice system, exposing the rots in the judiciary. Now, Nnamdi Kanu is crying out loud, saying that this same judiciary, the way the case is being approached, is not fair to him. In all this right now, we wouldn't say that the judiciary system in Nigeria is no longer the last hope of a common man to get justice.
Yeah, certainly. Like over time, right? Just like one executive was cited as quoting that currently we don't have 3 arms of government, but the Trinity. You understand? And that unholy alliance defies the very essence of separation of power, the principle of separation of powers, which should make it that each arm of power should be able to serve as a check on the other. But it does appear that whether you're looking at the legislators, where even executive now install the leadership of the House, whether it's at the federal or at the state, we say like it's whoever the governor or the president wants, they eventually emerge. And then also we see like the level of influence also, even when it has to do with cases in the courts. So with such kind of, judiciary allowing itself and its powers to be cowed by the judiciary, we certainly cannot, it can no longer be said to be true that the judiciary remains the last hope of the common man, but actually a place of, a kind of an instrument or a weapon, to the strong and to the elites.
Yeah.
You understand? And the executive, which they can use it well at will to actually further advance their political objectives. Because this whole issue, if you look at it, it ought to be like an issue of like reviewing what is this young man saying? Does it really constitute terrorism and all of the things that is being said? Looking at it clearly from a legal standpoint. But we say it's more of political. Keep him there. Let him suffer, let him, just, for no just reason.
So now you have still not responded, giving us your reaction to how he handled matters during his last hearing. Do you think that he had the leeway to react the way he did? Because he was heated, just briefly. How did you feel about that, his reaction?
Yeah, like honestly, like I did mention, I actually reacted to that. I said that very timely. Because, where else you expect his deliverance or something.
Okay, now away from that, some people are saying that he should have even stopped going to court in the first place. That if he knows that court no longer has jurisdiction to handle his case, that why even go? Whether it be for respect of the court for the court or not, that he shouldn't have kept going. Are you of that school of thought?
Well, let me say something. If even in the next court, the court insists that he must be brought to the court, and then Nnamdi Kanu is not beyond Nigeria. That's the simple truth. TSS will find a way. 500 million like he alleges is enough, to muster all of the firepower, the strength to make him appear, in the court. After all, people can even be compelled to say the truth. You understand? There could be forceful arrest, forceful detention, even his own case. So if they were able to move him from another country to appear in Nigeria, is it now when he's within Nigeria and with the secret police that bring him to the court. But what we are actually saying is that the very question before us is whether the mannerism with which the federal government and judiciary is following this contravenes his fundamental rights as a citizen, his right to freedom, his right to self-determination, his right to advocacy. So these are like the front burner issues.
Right.
And most importantly, another thing I want to say, over time, I'm one of those that have said that, what we've seen over time from the Southeast governors is politics within Nnamdi Kanu's issue, right? Come out in the public and say, oh, let's release him, all of the pictures. Let me tell you the simple truth. The only thing that can frame Nnamdi Kanu as it is at the moment, it's not a legal solution, but a political one. The Southeast governors must take the lead.
It's very important. Do you think that laws that favor Nnamdi Kanu are just deliberately and conveniently being broken by the federal government, things that should actually favor him in his case?
That's exactly what we see playing out. Because first and foremost, like we pointed out, extraordinary rendition renders the case invalid. Renders all of the courts with no jurisdiction to continue that trial. Yeah, because in law, lawyers will always say you can't place nothing upon nothing and expect it to stand. So what that means in this particular case is, so you want to start something right to serve justice, but in a very wrong foundation. How is that supposed to happen? You understand what I'm saying? So there is something fundamentally wrong about the process. And that also faults everything about the trials and the proceedings, right? So what the government would have done would have been to first to get it right, apologize, pay the damages and all the rest of it, you understand? Because that is not the law. The Nigerian law doesn't support that. The international law and conventions that Nigeria is a signatory to does also not support this.
So if Nnamdi Kanu is eventually found guilty, if the government continues to treat the case this way, what would be the consequence of it? Because it's a very serious case.
Okay, so see the thing is, if they want to find him guilty, right? Really on what basis? It's been charges upon charges.
Treason, terrorism.
I really should think, even with the level of interest that the government has, and that is why you see politics panning out, but then on the wings of legality. Now, what I see play out is, whether it's the judiciary, taking a sudden decision, or the executive, taking a conclusive decision on this, it has its own implication, whichever way you want to look at it. So what I think what plays out is, okay, let's keep, adjourning this case. So let me give an instance. So just imagine if the court now says, oh, he's found guilty, right? Guilty of what many would ask. And that may mean that the law court is going to lose its credibility. And another part of the government coming out to say, okay, release him or detain him for life. One will wonder why government will have to interfere further, after you've extraordinarily, brought him back to Nigeria. So it's something that is a bit challenging. And one of the things I actually see, which, many pundits actually expected, is a British citizen. What's the role of the British government and all the rest. But of course, it was also follow the activities of Nnamdi Kanu. It appeared that some of the powers that would have helped him, he also relegated them. You understand? Yes. Also like the Southeast governors. So it's almost like, fine, he had a good cause, right? But then the problem could be that, some of the relationship and power brokers that would have aided his cause at this particular point, it looked like he destroyed all those bridges. But that's a conversation for another day.
But my case I want to make here is adherence to international human rights laws. At this point in time, how would you think the world will be looking at Nigeria? How they are reacting at this point in time, adhering to international human rights laws regarding Nnamdi Kanu. One time he was denied medical aid. He was crying out. One time he was denied access to his attorneys. He was crying out. Your take?
The interesting thing is that when you look at human rights reports, right, of some developing nations, you always see some level of consistency. And that is the consistency in disregarding some of the conventions that they are part of. I mean, Nigeria is not part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for instance. All of the 193 nations of the United Nations are all part of the conventions. But sadly, when it comes to like implementation, and especially the very fact that it's just a moral obligation, it's not binding. International laws, it's just like, okay, what do you just do to show that you've got conscience? I mean, nobody's going to punish you, nobody's going to, and just based on that, it's just okay to like just choose the one you can do.
But don't that affect relationships between nations? Regarding that, this country, when it comes to certain type of behavior, they could actually be attributed to.
Oji, I'd like to answer that question. There are many things going on in Nigeria now that affect our image nationally speaking, internationally speaking, even beyond Nnamdi Kanu's case. But what we're looking at now in the foreign realm is that Nnamdi Kanu is saying that many of the offenses he's being accused of, he actually committed while in the UK. So he should be tried in the UK, so to speak. So what do you feel about that? Why is it being ignored?
Yeah, what I feel, and that's what I said, right? I mean, if you follow his broadcast, which I did, like for some of the broadcasts, you could see him like at some point, that at some point, he also left the UK and relocated to America. There was a reason for that. I mean, where like you stay in a country and begin to speak against, that country. And when things like this come up, maybe your government would also feel like, come on, if we are coming to ask this guy and that he be released, wouldn't he also be like a source of a challenge?
Could it actually be the reason why the British is giving a blind eye to
that's exactly
because his brother is calling them out that he's a British citizen
that's
and you guys
exactly.
haven't actually intervened in this case?
I mean, like, let me tell you the simple truth. It just appeared that the British government was in some regard behaving like Nigeria government in Nnamdi Kanu's case. You can't hold a British citizen unjustly, even if it's one person. I mean, do you know when they were one expatriate from the US?
Yes.
Right? Was kidnapped in the up north. They sent the US Navy just in a matter of hours. You understand? The hoodlums have to release it. I mean, you can't even think of that. I mean, if you are who? If you want terrorism, maybe you call yourself a terrorist or ISIS. And you want your show to end. When you catch an American citizen or US or UK citizen, don't handle them properly. Then you know that power pass power, right? You can't do those things maybe you do with Mali government and Niger with like world powers, right? That influences what happens. That can use what a man drone, right? Survey the whole place and take away whoever they want to take. They can end all of it in a trickle of an eye, right? So you can't afford to. But I think the challenge is that's why I say that he probably, right, destroyed bridges. Voices like critical stakeholders that have been able to match Nigeria government.
I mean, every possibility should be.
Hey, anyways, what is your thought about it? Please drop your comment on the comment section. And as I keep saying, at this point, we just need to keep our fingers crossed and pray to God to do the impossible. All right? So thank you very much. God bless you.